Good evening. I think Rebecca and me should have spoken more before this, because I think a lot of the things Rebecca said, I was going to say. You know, when Steph asked me to speak here tonight, I was very nervous, and I would say I was frightened. So I did what I always do in these sort of situations. I got on my knees to my Lord Jesus, and I said, Lord, help me. And you know, his answer came pretty quickly, and it just put it into my head. Steph's not asking you to read the 10 o'clock news. She's not asking you to speak to millions of people. She's asking you to speak to your family, to your brothers and sisters in Christ. She's asking you to speak for 10 minutes. So that's what I'm going to do. And also I heard these words: if you do make a mistake, if you do get lost, they will show you grace. So get ready to be graceful. Right, as most of you know, I was homeless, street homeless, from the year 2005 until 2009, until I ended up in Watford. And you know, when I ended up in Watford, I didn't know Watford at all, and I thought, what am I doing here? Because I had spent from 2005 to 2009 to alcohol and gambling. You know, after a career of 30 years with London Underground decided to retire me, medically retire me, because of my alcoholism. And they were very good, because they could have sacked me at any time, because I was drunk most of the time, but they decided to give me early retirement. And after I got the retirement, I couldn't cope without my work, because I'd been working for 30 years hard at nights on the track, and I loved it, but I couldn't cope with it. So my drinking got worse and worse, my gambling got worse. So my wife asked me to leave the home. My boy was going to university the year I left. My daughter had just started with British Airways. So I walked out of my home onto the streets of London. But I want to tell you how I was treated. In the 4 years I was street homeless, I was treated pretty badly in different towns and but I want to give you two instances. This is just practical things, how people treat their fellow man when they think that they're less than them. This is two incidents. The first incident happened when I was about 3 weeks homeless. When I was homeless at first, I was very frightened, because I'd never been homeless. So I used to sleep on the night buses in London. Because I had a pass, I worked for London Underground, I had a free pass for the buses. So what I would do, I'd go to Trafalgar Square, and I'd get on the night bus at 10:30 that run to Heathrow. So that bus would run up and down all night to Heathrow, an hour there, hour back. And then it would sit for a while at Trafalgar Square. So I'd sit on the bus drinking my cans and getting as much sleep as I could. Now this went on for about 3 weeks, and I thought, this will do me for the rest of my life. You know, I'm quite happy with this. This is quite a free heat. You know, I'm safe. I thought I was safe. But anyway, this night, I was dozing off in the back seat. It must have been about 4 in the morning, 3:30. And I heard this laughing. And I woke up, and I was covered. I was covered in wet. I could feel the wet running down me. And I thought, oh, I've spilt my cider, and I'm looking. I think, oh, God, I can't afford to waste that. But what had actually happened was these group of drunken youths decided to urinate on me. And, you know, they thought it was funny. And the bus driver came flying up the stairs, and he said to me, right, you off. Never said anything to the blokes that had done it. They were sitting there laughing. So, you know, I was thrown off the bus, Trafalgar Square, covered in urine. So that was, you know, that was my sort of initiation into street life, and it showed me that I would have to be very aware of what I was doing. I would have to toughen up a bit. So after that happened, I left London, and as I say, I went all round the United Kingdom, all Derby, Nottingham, Birmingham, Scotland, Ireland, and I eventually ended up in Watford in 2009. For my first 3 months in Watford, I didn't go to any charities to look for help. All I did was I begged. I had a little bit of my pension because I froze most of my pension, so I thought I didn't want my wife to have it, I thought she might waste it on things like the mortgage and stuff. So, I didn't want her to have my pension, so I froze it. But then I discovered that was a bit of a silly thing, because when I went to the Social Security, they said to me, well, where's your pension? I said, I froze it. Well, they said, tough, we're not. You froze it, you've made yourself, poor. So you just have to get on with it. So I spent most of my time begging. But as I say, for the first 3 months, I didn't access any help at all. I used to go into McDonald's, wash my face in the sink in the morning, and drink all day and drink all night. But one day I was sitting at the pond. It was a lovely summer's day, and there was this little girl feeding the ducks at the pond, and her mum, and I think it was a friend, was with her. Now, when I left home, my little goddaughter, my little niece, she was a year old, a little blonde girl, and me and my wife helped bring her up for the first year because her mum was a single mum. So, and I loved her. I loved that little girl with all my heart, but that was one of the things that broke my heart when I left. But I seen this little girl, and she would have been about 4 or 5, and I thought, is that what Rosie looks like, this little boy? I wonder if that's what Rosie looks like. So anyway, the little girl, the mum walked on with her friend, and the little girl came, she stood in front of me, and she smiled at me. So I smiled back. And the next thing, I heard the mum shouting at the top of her voice, come away from that dirty old smelly tramp. That was, because, up to that point, I never seen that I was dirty. I never smelt myself. I mean, I had socks on that had been on for a year at this time. And when I looked in shop windows, I seen the John that had left in 2005. I seen the John that had a £70,000 a year job with London Underground. I didn't see what I'd become, but that hit home to me. It really saved my life, because the very next day I went to New Hope. I went to New Hope Day Centre, and I got a proper wash, for probably the first time in about maybe a year. And I got clean clothes. I was given clean clothes. And that was the start of me. It didn't get me back on my feet. It took me another 5 years before God came into my life properly. But it did give me a kick up the backside, and it hurt those words. So I'm losing track now. You need to be graceful. A lot of what I was going to say about New Hope, about how it started, and Sheila and Janet, Rebecca's already touched on it. So what I was going to, if there's one point I want to get across tonight, is, when you're walking up the streets in Watford, you see men and women sitting on the streets begging for money. Sometimes they've got little cards that say, hungry and homeless. Now, because I've been on the streets with these guys for the last 9 years in Watford, I worked for New Hope, I worked here at the Wellspring. I come into the Wellspring most days, and I see the guys, the homeless guys. I know for a fact that none of these guys are hungry. None. There is so much food around Watford from the different charities, the Elam Church. Our own Wellspring here makes gallons of tea and coffee every week. There's cakes and biscuits sometimes when we've got them, sandwiches if there's a function on. These guys know where to go to get food. New Hope give breakfast, packed lunches every day to the street homeless. So when you give your £1 or your 50p, you know, you feel God saying, I need to do something. I need to help these guys. Actually, you're not helping. You're making the situation worse. Because what's happened, when you see this, I'm hungry, homeless. They may be homeless and some of them are not homeless. There's a lot of bogus beggars on the streets. There's professional beggars out there. So I want you to be aware, if you really want to help these people, give to a charity like New Hope, give to a charity like Tier Fund, give to a recognised charity. Because the £1 you give these people on the street is not feeding them, it's feeding their addiction. So I see loads of people going into Tesco's and coming out and giving a sandwich to guys. I see them in Pret, they go into Pret and they bring out a sandwich. It might cost these people £5 for a sandwich and a drink. Do you know they'll drink the drink and throw the sandwich away? And I see it, and you know, I see it every day. That, because New Hope gets sandwiches from Pret every night. These guys get a packed lunch with the best sandwiches money can buy. They just beg for money. They want money, they don't want the food. And it's a shame that people's, you know, they're doing it with their heart, but they're actually wasting the money. If they would just even give one sandwich a year to donate a £5 a year to New Hope or whatever, it would help so much. Because, you know, John Andrews said on Sunday, to grow we need to change. Well, while these guys are getting all they need on the streets, they're not going to change. They need to come to places like New Hope, because New Hope's not about feeding them as much as they want them to come in so they can start helping. So they can find out exactly what's going on with them. They can direct them to the services they need to go, the mental health services, the different agencies that can help. So that is why we need them to come to the New. Not that we want to be the main provider of food in Watford, but we want them to come and access help. But while they can live on the streets, they'll be there for years. I know guys that have been on the streets for 10 years in Watford, and they're still there. You know, because they're getting everything they need. They can make £150, £200 a day. You know, not many of us in here make £200 a day, and it's all going to feed their addiction. So yeah, that is the one thing I would like to say. If you want to help, find out from Rebecca, find out from the different charities how you can help. Give clothes to the shop, give clothes to the Haven Day Centre, or whatever charity it is. I'm not just saying, you know, there's different. But do not give it directly, please, because I know from my own experiences, people gave me money. I've had people come up to me on the street and give me £50. One lady in St Albans gave me £50 note, because I asked her for 20p and she asked me, what do you want it for? And I said, I need it for a can of cider. And she went into a purse, she just got out a big Mercedes, and she took out a £50 note. I could not believe it, and she gave it to me. And the reason she gave it to me, because her husband had died 6 months earlier from alcoholism. He died on the streets, and he was Scottish. And she told me that is why, and she made me promise that I could buy some drink with it, but I would go and get myself some food and some clothes. And you know, I bought some drink and I went into a bookmaker's, and I put £40 on a horse which lost. You know, that lady's £50. I spent it in 5 minutes. So, you know, that was, you know, I often think about that lady and I pray for her, because she done it with her heart, but my addiction was, I wanted to do something good with it, but I just couldn't, because my addiction was driving me. So, yeah, I just ask you, please, if you're going to give to a recognised charity. Okay. Well.
Thank you, John. Bless you. Can we have the questions up? Ta-da! Okay, so question 1. Who do we think is responsible for the less fortunate? Question 2. What stops us from relating to people who have less than us? And question 3, how do you think we can disconnect having less from being less? So, three thought-provoking questions. And let's spend a few minutes discussing them in our groups.